This is Toronto, the Queen City, the muddy York of long ago grown to metropolitan maturity. Framed in these high-climbing walls of steel and concrete are the temples of banking, insurance, merchandising, of mining and electric power and heavy industry. Here are the soaring monuments of Toronto's leadership as Canada's capital of commerce. And these are the people of Toronto. Nearly 1 million strong, they teem the city streets. Here are the shoppers, Mrs. Toronto in all her scores of thousands. Here are the stenographers, the businessmen, the workers. And here is the youth of Toronto, their bright faces turned to the future, preparing for the years ahead in Toronto's public schools and university. Industry, intelligence, integrity. This is the proud motto of Toronto and its people. Under its high inspiration, they have built this city's far-famed churches, churches of all faiths that symbolize the freedom of worship. Yes, and the freedom of living for which Canada stands foursquare. Toronto has built great modern hospitals. Toronto is the capital of Ontario, the meeting place of courts and legislature. With great plants and factories, Toronto leads in industrial production. Toronto is proud of its beautiful parks, of the great reaches of green and sunny slopes that lie like emeralds across the city's face. Here for everybody is rest and escape from the humdrum of the streets. Here are Toronto's beaches and swimming tanks, the water playgrounds that build healthy bodies and healthy minds. Toronto's modern man-made harbor is a triumph of engineering skill. Today, a crowded port of call and anchorage of Royal Canadian Yacht Club Cup winners. Yes, we of Toronto are proud of our city of homes. And well may Toronto be proud of her publicly owned transportation system. City life can never be static. Someone's on the move all the time, and sometimes it seems as though everybody's moving at once. How do all these thousands of people make their daily rounds? To work, to shop, to play. Many of them go in their own automobiles. Some of the people are close enough to walk. But by far the most of them, hundreds of thousands every day, go by streetcar or go by bus. It is quick, convenient, safe, and costs little to go that way. But it wasn't always so. Let's turn the clock back to 1917. And here we are, rush hour traffic in the Toronto of not so long ago. The good old days? Well, just take a look at these 1917 mob scenes and see how Toronto traveled then. Every man for himself and no holds barred. Look at them jam that platform. It wasn't unusual for passengers to be brushed off the step altogether by passing vehicles. Yes, this is how it used to be. And remember, to really get around, we had to use 9 separate transportation services, pay 9 separate fares. Here were the lines of the Toronto Railway Company. This was the basic one-fare system. But if you lived beyond the Toronto Railway Company lines in the West End, well, that meant an extra fare on the Civic or suburban cars. Same thing all around town. West, north, and east. If you traveled to the outlying parts of the city, it cost you an extra fare each way. Yes, 9 separate transportation systems before the TTC took over. What a contrast today. Gone are the old and open-ended streetcars of yesteryear. Gone the packed-jammed, dangerous open platforms, the crowded steps, along with the old coffee pot fare box and the jolting single-truck ride. Now we travel speedily, safely, and comfortably in these modern all-steel streamliners and in these up-to-the-minute transit-type buses. Yes, and today we travel everywhere in Toronto for just one fare, with free transfers anywhere. A fare nearly 2 cents less than the average fare in all comparable North American cities. September 1st, 1921 is a bright landmark in Toronto's progress. On that day, representing all the streetcar riders of all Toronto, the Toronto Transportation Commission took over the former 9 separate systems. Then began the steady extension of the tracks and bus routes to new and growing sections of the city, a process that has gone on progressively ever since the TTC took over and will continue as long as Toronto itself continues to grow and expand. Today, all Toronto, North End and downtown, East End and West End is just one big neighborhood. Knitting the whole city together is the universal single-fare service of the TTC. As the tracks and bus routes pushed ever farther and farther, the new communities of metropolitan Toronto have grown up alongside. Kingston Road, Gerrard, the Danforth, North Toronto, Eglinton, St. Clair, Bloor and Jane. The magic of reliable, low-cost transportation brought them all new population, new stores, new homes, new industries. Yes, your public transportation system has been the master builder of modern metropolitan Toronto. Lay all the miles of TTC tracks, bus routes, and gray coach routes end to end, and they would reach from Quebec City to Winnipeg. Line up all the streetcars and buses and coaches of the TTC in single file, and the parade would stretch 10 long miles, the whole length of Bloor and Danforth, from city limit to city limit. Here in a typical divisional car house, your streetcars receive their daily grooming and inspection before being put in service. Toronto's streetcars must be cleaned, and here's how it's done the modern way, faster, more efficiently, in true assembly line style. Outside and in, these men of the divisions brush and sponge your streetcars. Every inch of every car is made and kept spick and span. Windows are polished, mirror bright. Yes, they disinfect the cars too, an extra safeguard for your protection. And above all, your streetcars must be safe. The Safety Fender, saver of lives, gets a thorough test for proper operation. Brakes are vital in these high-speed days, and streetcar brakes get special attention. Sometimes a flat wheel develops. Just a flat spot on the rim as tiny as a dime, but what a noise it can make. The wheel must be ground to perfect roundness. Safety latches on all doors must operate perfectly. Windows receive careful attention to keep them weather-tight. For safety, the opening and closing of all doors is timed with precision. Ready for today's run, your streetcar gets a clean bill of health from the tester. Back of the divisional car houses are the general shops, the focal center of the TTC's Hillcrest property, which covers an area of 22 acres adjoining the corner of Bathurst Street and Davenport Road. Here are grouped the modern maintenance and repair buildings described by transit experts as the best and most efficient street railway shops in America. In these general shops, repair operations are designed on the same straight-line production system as in the most modern factory. Modern maintenance saves the streetcar riders hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. At regular intervals, every streetcar receives a thorough overhaul in every detail. Before the Transportation Commission took over in 1921, the car barns, yards, and repair shops of the former systems were as antiquated as the old open platform streetcars of 1917. Today, careful, adequate maintenance not only results in a high standard of reliable service to the public, but also saves nearly $500,000 annually. Before the motor and dismantled, they're cleaned of grease and road dirt. The armature is stripped for rewinding as neatly as paring cheese with a razor. The new winding is applied by experts. Workers in almost every craft are on the job in the TTC shops. Now the armature is dipped in an electrically heated vat of solder. The motor is nearly ready for reinstallation. Just a few more finishing touches on machines like this. The TTC has designed and built much of its own machine equipment. Okay for service. Another batch of motors passes the inspector's critical eye. Accuracy, precision. These are the keynotes of the song the lathe sings. Scores of operations in reconditioning your streetcars call for measurements gauging in thousandths of an inch. Precision boring tools ensure that the wheels will fit snugly and safely. All through the shops, accuracy and careful workmanship reign supreme. Wheels, for example, are press-fitted to their axles under tens of thousands of pounds pressure. The blacksmith's art is far from fading, and craftsmen all are these brawny blacksmiths of the TTC shops. No horses to shoe here, but still the blacksmith plays his part in modern transportation. The welder's skill renews equipment which in the old days might have been tossed in the scrap bin. This unique machine actually sprays bearing metal on shafts. Streetcar bodies are thoroughly reconditioned at intervals. From end to end, inside and out, they're rebuilt like new. The safety and service of the public must come first. And first they do come with the maintenance men of the TTC. Every week is Paint Up Week at Hillcrest. Every day these master painters are dressing up the big red cars and buses, keeping them bright and new looking, vehicles in harmony with the clean streets for which Toronto is famous. The paint shop is one of the most efficient installations of its kind anywhere. A penny saved is a penny earned, and your Transportation Commission puts this sound old maxim into practice by making even the familiar monograms which appear on the streetcars and buses. Deftly trimmed, the transfer is ready. It is fixed in position on the car or bus, then a quick scrubbing, and the car is finished. And there she goes, trim, shipshape, tuned to perfection. And who is going to drive her? Here's a man who wants a job as a streetcar operator. Let's follow him and see what it takes to get and hold a job with your transportation system. First, an application blank. The TTC wants detailed information from the job seeker. Now Jim Anderson visits the employment office for an interview. You see, the TTC is mighty careful to secure the right men to train as streetcar operators. Aptitude is checked by a scientific IQ test. Next day, Jim Anderson is called again to the personnel department. He's pleased, naturally. Operating a TTC car is a good job. And now a complete medical examination. A streetcar operator has to be fit. He's responsible for the safety of hundreds of passengers every day. Heart, lungs, blood pressure, everything must check okay. This little machine gives eyes a real third degree. And so Jim Anderson gets the go-ahead to go back to school. Yes, and here he is in class, in the system's own completely equipped School of Instruction, a school that never closes for holidays. Even after these men complete their initial training, there will be future refresher courses for them at the school or the division. Thorough grounding in principles of traffic control and safety is followed by intensive instruction in the operating fundamentals of the streetcars. The students receive expert coaching at the controls of dummy streetcars that never move. Hour upon hour, going through the motions of starting, stopping, opening doors, throwing switches, they soon acquire precision and confidence. Day follows day of practice on all types of streetcar and motor vehicle dismantles. Then the great day arrives. After long hours of study and practice, after written examinations, after coaching under the eagle eye of a veteran operator on actual runs, our graduate solos a full-fledged operator. On his own now, and Jim Anderson handles himself like a veteran. Training accounts for that. These men, the operators of your streetcars and buses, are the friendly contact men between your transportation system and you, the riders. Day in and day out, and all in the day's work, they do a lot of little things to serve you. Things people seldom notice. Friendly things, courteous things, conscientious things. If you've ever left something valuable on a TTC car, you can count on the operator to do his part to see you get it back. Here at the Lost and Found Depot, hundreds of articles are restored to absent-minded owners, all as part of the day's routine. "2,000 strong is this big army of TTC uniformed men. All at your service, all striving sincerely to please you and speed your round-the-town traveling. You meet them every day on the streetcars and buses, but behind the scenes, too, they have a lot of work to do before the day's run starts. The divisional office is the headquarters of the operator's activities. Here, first thing when they come on duty, they check up on the day's run ahead of them. Then there are tickets to be secured. A supply of change for the passenger's convenience and the ticket box. Transfers, too, wouldn't do to forget them. And, of course, it takes a little figuring to keep the cash account straight. Hours later, the day's run over, Jim Anderson makes out his daily report. And now for a little recreation. Equipped by the men themselves, these comfortable quarters are typical of recreational facilities at the divisions. Traffic control is the chief responsibility of the 6 divisional offices of the system. Operators frequently go into a huddle with the divisional superintendent. But running a great metropolitan transportation system isn't all routine. No, somewhere, sometimes, trouble strikes. In the TTC communications room, the dog watch operator gets the call. Police department, trolley wire down. Get your men out fast. Flash, and out goes the call for action to the emergency crew. Pounding rain, hurricane wind, it's all in the day's work or the night's to these troubleshooters of the TTC. And it's not just the hazard of wind and weather. In a trailing wire, death lurks. There's hot stuff there. High voltage on the loose, searing, scorching power. These are men with the know-how to find trouble and fix it fast. Men with a little of the high wire acrobat's uncanny balance, with a little of the steeplejack's unflurried poise, with a blue nose's scorn for heavy going. There's the feeling deep inside these men that your streetcars must not fail. A sturdy resolve to maintain uninterrupted transportation service. Yes, we take them for granted, these Minutemen who ride the storm, keeping our lines of communication clear and open. Yet proudly, the troubleshooters and maintenance men of the TTC can point to the record. A record that shows year by year a phenomenal decrease in interruptions to your service. Honor the men who keep your streetcars and your buses rolling, come what may. A perfect track means comfort as well as safety. That's why TTC rails are welded into one continuous jointless track. When the TTC stepped into the picture, much of the street railway track work was worn out, actually in dangerous condition. At once, plans were laid to rehabilitate the entire system of trackage wherever necessary. Today, the work still goes on, for a good right-of-way is the foundation of reliable public transportation. Enough electric power to supply all needs in all the homes of a city of 50,000 people is distributed through the TTC's own power substations. Sometimes trouble hits here too when lightning strikes, but modern protective devices minimize interruptions to streetcar service. At Davenport Garage, the buses and coaches of the TTC receive their regular maintenance care. And like the streetcars, they too are completely overhauled from time to time. Some engine, some horsepower, and in line with modern design, the engine has moved to the rear. Thanks to regular maintenance care, TTC buses continue to give efficient service for hundreds of thousands of miles. Bus bodies are systematically cared for by expert carpenters, upholsterers, painters, and metal workers. Proper maintenance is a keystone in TTC policy, for the money saved pays dividends to you, the riders. Like the streetcars, the buses too are washed and polished regularly, thoroughly cleaned inside and out. Your transportation system maintains an adequate stock of supplies, of spare parts for cars and buses, materials for all needs of the whole organization. Accidents do happen, don't they? But when they do, strategically located TTC first aid rooms save the day. Maybe it's just a cut hand, but it gets competent and thorough treatment at once. Sometimes it's more serious, a nasty fall, and it looks as if that arm might be more than just bruised. The first aid attendant is always on duty. Quickly, his skilled fingers explore the damage. Now a pair of splints, a bandage. The first aid rooms are completely equipped, ready to cope with any emergency. When your Transportation Commission constructed the Toronto bus terminal in 1931, it carried its operation of gray coach lines a logical step forward. These lines have made Toronto a major highway travel center of America. Dependable low-cost transportation is provided for thousands every day. Courteous attendants are on the alert to assist travelers. Scores of regular daily trips are scheduled. And as the dispatcher's call rolls out, the comfortable coaches and deluxe streamliners of gray coach lines glide from the loading platforms to highways east and west, north and south. Gray coaches travel more than 1,000 miles of Ontario highways, make connections with other leading lines serving all North America. Gray Coach Lines operates the extra fare Hill Coach route and Mount Pleasant route. Shoppers buses are another feature of Gray Coach Line service. Charter launches also come under Gray Coach direction. Toronto's popular ferry boats plying across the bay to Centre Island, Ward's Island, and Hanlon's Point are operated by your Transportation Commission. Here at the ferry docks, an ordinary streetcar ticket takes you for a refreshing lake cruise in miniature. It provides low-cost transportation to summer's huge crowds of picnickers and pleasure seekers, gives convenient and reliable service to the many thousands who make their summer homes across the bay. But it's not all plain sailing for your transportation system. Toronto is a big city of big crowds, a city of narrow streets, hemmed in, congested. Free-wheel traffic often steals the right-of-way, slowing down the many for the sake of the few. Parking of vehicles on it slows up everybody. Bottlenecks in main arteries bog down long lines of traffic. Cooperation can solve these problems, and the TTC is doing its part. For example, modern loops enable streetcars and buses to do their turning entirely off the roadway, where they don't interfere with other traffic. When the TTC guide offers you tickets, makes change for you, answers your travel questions clearly and courteously, she is helping to speed up your streetcar and bus service. She represents the spirit of your transportation system, a spirit inspired by the threefold aim of serving you honestly, efficiently, sincerely. As a publicly owned service, the TTC is operated not for profit, but to give the greatest service to the public at the lowest cost. The costs of the service are met only by those who use it. Only the passenger pays the TTC. The motorist does not contribute a cent to public transportation in Toronto. Not 1 mil out of the taxpayer's dollar has ever been paid for any cost of the system. The TTC belongs to everybody in Toronto, and everybody benefits from the TTC. More than anything else, your public transportation system has been the spearhead of modern Toronto's forward march to greatness. It has created whole new communities of homes and shops by extending unified single-fare service to the farthest limits of the city. It has attracted huge new industries to Toronto. It has helped to add hundreds of millions of dollars to the city's assessment rolls, paving the way for outstanding civic improvements of recent years. It has played an essential part in making the Canadian National Exhibition the biggest annual exhibition in the world. It has done all these things and more while saving the passengers nearly 2 cents on every ride, $3 million a year. Today a great city, Toronto goes forward towards an even brighter, ever greater future. And keeping step, yes, setting the pace, the big red streetcars of the TTC, the buses and coaches roll out ahead, 40 million miles a year.